Hey guys, Drifter here. Today I've got a video for you about poisoned Halloween candy, and I'm going to go ahead and start off with the preface that Halloween candy has never been poisoned. This is an urban legend, it's a myth, and it's about as inaccurate as my shotgun shots here, even the ones that go straight through this guy. Completely baffling, and even though the intro to this gameplay is one of the most disappointing experiences that I've had in Call of Duty in a very long time, made me mad enough to want to punch my TV right through the TV and into the wall, I do end up actually having really good gameplay here, almost about a 3.5, 4.0 KD, and I get 2 swarm failures. Get really close to 2 different swarms, like 1 kill off and die, so the gameplay is going to get really good now, but there's never been any poisoned Halloween candy, and a lot of you say, but so-and-so, but this case. I'm going to talk about each and every one here. Let's first talk about why these kind of things get around. The myth is very old. The myth of Halloween candy being poisoned is almost as old as trick-or-treating. Whenever trick-or-treating became popular, the poison candy thing became very popular almost immediately afterward, and that's because this is one of those wary, paranoid kind of problems that we are genetically predisposed to think about. And if you think about it, parents spend all year telling their kids, don't eat candy from strangers, don't trust strangers, don't get in the van with the creepy guy, don't eat random food, watch what you're doing, don't put things in your mouth. Then on Halloween we go to all these random creepy strange houses and get things and then put them in our mouths, and it's very weird. It goes counter to most of the advice we get, and again, this is a fear of the unknown type problem. It's one of those things like, let's say we're cavemen again, and you say, hey, I think there's a tiger in the bush. The other guy says, you're stupid, there's no tiger in that bush. And he's like, well, you gonna check it? And you both be like, maybe not, because you don't get anything for going into the bush, but if there is a tiger, and if you are wrong, you die. Same kind of thing with Halloween candy, and it makes people naturally wary. But let's talk about some historical examples of where this myth really propagated in the modern media. We'll start off with Helen Feel in 1964, and I'm going to give you some links down there in the description so you can read about these on her own. She was a housewife, and she was getting kind of mad that there were a lot of teenagers trick-or-treating. They were just too old to be out trick-or-treating. They were ruining the fun for the kids, taking the candy or whatever. So she decided to be a little bit spiteful, a little bit devilish, and make a sort of bad treat box, almost like a gag gift box, but more like a FU kind of box of dog treats, which, you know, dog biscuits, the little hard ones, steel wool, which is used to clean dinner plates and stuff out the sink and taste terrible, and the little ant poison pellets, like tiny little, I think they were arsenic ant poison pellets. I don't even know if they'd kill you if you ate the things, but they have a skull and crossbones. They're clearly labeled poison, and as the story goes, she even told the teenagers that she handed these out to that they were poison, and that this ant poison and this is your dog biscuits and all this other sort of stuff, and they understood it was a gag gift. Nobody ate them, everybody threw them away, but one of the parents reported it. The police came, she confessed, and she was charged with, I believe it was conspiracy to commit poison or child endangerment or something, but seeing that nobody was harmed and that there was no harm intended, rather just a very mean kind of gag gift, she got a suspended sentence, which I suppose is kind of like parole. Nobody was harmed in this. Nobody got poisoned. Nobody was hurt. Probably the most famous you can tell what I'm thinking about, case, is Ronald Clark O'Brien in 1974. This is the one of the poisoned pixie stick with cyanide. This really got it around. Basically, his son checked into the hospital. The doctor couldn't quite figure out what was wrong, and then he died not long thereafter, and come to find out he had cyanide poisoning, and came from his pixie stick. His pixie stick was contaminated, and the man said it was random Halloween candy. He picked it up from strangers. That's probably why his son died. But of course there's a police investigation into these things. Nobody just takes your word for it. The police investigation later found out that Mr. O'Brien bought cyanide for his own personal use. He tampered with the pixie sticks, put one in his kid's bag, and one of his friend's son, and a couple of the neighbor kids, just the whole trick-or-treating group. There were like 4 or 5 of them. He snuck a pixie stick into each one of their bags in order for them all to get cyanide poisoning and either get very sick or die, so that it could be blamed on random Halloween candy. And this was proven also because none of his neighbors were handing out pixie sticks. And you're going to ask, well, why would a father randomly poison his child? Well, it wasn't random. Not that long before, he took out a massive life insurance policy on his son, like the kind where you can just go ahead and retire His idea was to poison his son, blame it on random Halloween candy, get away scot-free, and I guess he wins, his son loses. I almost said win-win, but that's just a bad sort of a expression, especially for this sort of thing. He was found guilty of murder and executed not too long after this incident. There was another one of heroin found in candy in Detroit in 1970. Basically, a kid died of heroin overdose. They checked him. Obviously, heroin in the system, he had heroin on and around his candy, and they thought that somebody had tampered with the Halloween candy. A further investigation revealed that his uncle's heroin stash had gone missing. Basically, while the uncle was out, the kid had found the stash, played with it, decided to eat some of it, sprinkle on his candy, and do all sorts of other things that kids do, and he accidentally poisoned himself. There was a case in the year 2000 of pot brownies, not pot brownies, pot Snickers bars being handed out to children. And for those of you that from other countries that aren't as familiar with the English, that's marijuana or cannabis. This guy handed out little Snicker bars that had been baked with cannabis oil so that if you ate them, you would get high. This is a pretty common thing that stoners do. They bake it into their food, so they sit there, eat brownies and cookies or whatever, and just get high. Pretty harmless, except he was giving it out to children. The police came, there was a big investigation, and turns out what it was is that this person was a postal worker, and their post office had some sort of unusual office charity, food donating for the poor kind of thing, and they could I don't know, some weird sort of potluck thing. But at the end of the day, he saw these Snickers bars and decided that they'd be perfect for the neighborhood kids for Halloween, because he didn't really want to go buy or make anything. He picked them up and just decided to go ahead and hand them out to the kids, assuming it would be fine. I mean, it was going to be donated to the homeless or to the underprivileged anyway. Come to find out, somebody had made pot Snickers bars and donated them to the post office. He picked them up, handed them out, had no idea he was handing out pot candy bars, and that's kind of what happened. There were no charges filed on him. He wasn't in trouble. It was an honest mistake. And marijuana, regardless of what you hear about it in school or whatever, is not poisonous. It doesn't make you go crazy or kill yourself or do anything like the other drugs do. Nobody was harmed. Like, no harm, no foul kind of thing. Nobody was charged. There was one verified case of candy tampering in the United States that I'm aware of, and that happened in the year 2000. There was a guy in Minneapolis. His name was James Joseph Smith, and he put needles into candy bars. I think they were like the little Snickers minis again. I don't know why we keep going back to these Snickers bars for whatever reason. Maybe I need to get me a Snickers. Maybe I'm too hungry. But he put needles in them, and there's not a whole lot of information about this, and I'm not entirely sure why, but he did put needles in the candy bars, and the result of this is that one child pricked his mouth when he bit into it. That was it. The entire thing. He was found very quickly. He was arrested, went to jail, but there were no serious injuries other than one kid pricked his mouth. That's it. No serious injuries. Nobody died. No earth-shattering revelations or anything. Just rough on the mouth. And that kind of goes back to this myth, is like, well then, if there's never been any verifiable case of Halloween candy poisoning, then why in the world does this myth keep propagating? And that's just because it's the way we think. We don't like taking random food from strangers and putting it into our mouths. We worry about other people. We're intelligent creatures. We think about all the things that could possibly go wrong, and then kind of internalize those and like, well, maybe I shouldn't do this, maybe I should do this, can't trust this person, can't trust that person. And it all turns out to be statistical nonsense. I mean, considering that no people have died from Halloween candy poisoning, random, there have been family members that poison kids and then blame it on others, as we've seen. Pretty much any activity is more dangerous than eating Halloween candy, like skydiving into a tornado. Wait, that's a terrible one. Let's say that's actually something that's incredibly dangerous. Being on an airplane is more dangerous. Getting struck by lightning is more statistically probable to kill you. Ebola at this point. You are more likely to date Taylor Swift than you are to be poisoned by Halloween candy. You are more likely to date 3 or 4 celebrities at once than you are to be poisoned by Halloween candy, because the Halloween candy poisoning deaths are 0. Pretty much any ridiculous scenario that you can think of that's happened to any person at any point in human history is more statistically probable than that. And the whole point of this is you just don't have to worry about it. But it does, even saying that, I'm a very practical guy, and I'm just going to tell you to use common sense with the things that you eat and put in your mouth. If you open up something that looks like a Reese's cup, except it's not in the Reese's wrapping, it's like a home wrapping, and it's covered in green slime that smells like motor oil, maybe you shouldn't eat it. If something clearly has a razor blade sticking out, maybe you shouldn't eat it. But you don't have to worry about picking apart every single little piece of candy and looking for these little things, because they've just never happened. And if it does happen to you, then rest assured you are the first. You are going to be a case study, trendsetter. Your name is going to be all over the internet. Some people like that kind of thing. But can we not perpetuate this myth this Halloween? Can we not flip out about random candy poisoning? You know, little Susie had a seizure while she was eating candy. Well, it wasn't because of the candy. It was that little Susie was actually already predisposed to seizures. And this kind of happens anyway. Like, every Halloween at the ER, somebody comes in and they're sick and they blame it on Halloween candy. It's like, no, people get sick in the same proportion on Halloween as they do any other day. It's just now we got something random to blame it on. But this fear is crazy. You're afraid of absolutely nothing. It's literally like being afraid of the boogeyman. And I just kind of wanted to put this video out there to dispel a few myths, kind of cue people in that Halloween candy isn't poisoned and that not everybody's a sadist or devil worshiper or any of that sort of nonsense rumors that get spread around. Take your kids out, let them trick or treat, let them have fun, and don't fret about it. And that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. And I'm going to throw this last one at the end while we watch the kill cam. Got some sponsored links down in the description from Scuf and Astro Gaming. Go clicking on them and check out all my cool sponsors. Drifter out.